My family is currently serving as General Conference Missionaries in Uganda, East Central Africa with ADRA. We live in a beautiful compound in Kampala with high walls and ample security guard to keep my family feel safe. When my daughters want anything for their personal needs and personal items, they can walk from our compound to a convenience store down the road from our gate. In July of 2016, when war broke out in South Sudan, Uganda opened her borders to the South Sudanese refugees. ADRA was on the ground and was part of the first responders when the United Nations and the Office of the Prime Minister of Uganda called for help. In less than 3 months, Uganda received more than 300,000 refugees since the war broke out. In Bidibidi alone, now considered the world's largest refugee settlement, more than 280,000 South Sudanese refugees are staying in that camp. Uganda is now hosting more than 1.4 million refugees. According to the United Nations, this year alone we are expecting 200,000 Congolese refugees to be in Uganda. I traveled to Bidibidi 4 months after the South Sudanese refugees were in Uganda to check on the interventions that ADRA is doing in the camp. I met with several beautiful South Sudanese girls and women, ranging from as young as 12 years old to 22 years old. These beautiful girls were hanging out at the community center that ADRA built at one of the zones in Bidibidi. As country director for ADRA, I had the privilege to interview these refugee girls. The first question I asked was, what is your greatest challenge or need as a beautiful young refugee in Bidibidi? I anticipated their answers and said, a house and a shelter? They said, no, we have been provided with a small shelter and a toilet. I asked, access to clean water? And again they said, no, the United Nations provides us with access to clean water. I continued, food? Again they said, no, the United Nations World Food Program provides us with monthly food. Then what is it? They unanimously said in unison, sanitary pads. I was curious about their answer and asked Grace, a beautiful girl who in my assessment is around 14 years old, but she claims to be 18. She said when she has her menstrual period, she has 3 options. The first option is to stay home and not go to school, as the boys at school will tease her with her period. And they would say mean things like, she is stinky or unclean. The second option is for her to hope to marry a local man who can provide for her needs. The third option is to accommodate cash for sex with someone, so she would have some money to buy sanitary pads and continue with her dream to finish school one day. This shocked me to the core. So I asked the girls, how much would a man pay for him to have sex with you? And they said around 2,000 to 3,000 shillings per session. And if you convert that to Canadian dollar, that is less than $1. So I followed up with another question and asked, how much are the sanitary pads? And they said around 9,000 shillings for 4 pads. So I did the math and concluded that these beautiful South Sudanese girls will have to sleep with at least 4 men on average, just so they can avail of a sanitary pad. This brought me to tears. I went home from that trip shaken to the very core, thinking about Grace and her beautiful group of friends. I look at my own girls, Jewel and Jade, and I could not imagine my girls would have to sleep with 4 to 5 men just to get a supply of sanitary pads. Now I realize that we live in a very sinful world where pain, suffering, hate, systemic discrimination, corruption, and social injustice seems to be the accepted cultural norm and societal norm. However, as a church, we are called to be change agents in our communities. I love how Ellen White wrote it, and I paraphrase. The church is God's appointed agency for humanity's redemption and was organized to do good works and share the good news. The church is not perfect. In fact, it is defective. However, defective as the church may appear, the church is the YouTube, the TikTok, the Vimeo, the Facebook, and the Instagram of God's grace. And God delights to show His power to transform hearts through the church. Ellen White continues, the church is to uplift humanity and the members to find happiness in the happiness of those people they help. From the beginning, God has intended for His church to be a blessing and bring blessing to the world. 3 quick thoughts as I close. First, the church is to redeem this humanity. Second, the church is to be a blessing to this world. Third, the church is God's workmanship and was created to do good works. And that is what your church did in Uganda. Through ADRA Canada and your support here in British Columbia, ADRA provided sanitary pads and other hygiene items to Grace, her friends, and more than 5,000 vulnerable young South Sudanese girls and women in Uganda. This is what we do as a church. We redeem, we bring blessings, and we do good works. Now look around you. Your communities are negatively affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. How can your church redeem your community? How can your church be a blessing to your community? And what would good work look like in your church? May you follow Christ's method alone in reaching the people. Christ mingled with people as one who desired their good. He showed them sympathy, He ministered to their needs, and He won their confidence. And then He invited them, come, follow me.